I think it's safe to say we have all seen at least one Planet of the Apes movies in our lives. If you haven't, no worries, you can stay. But if you have, you might be wondering what makes it a classic. Why are those guys wearing masks, or even how did they train apes to do all that stuff? Well, they didn't. But the point is, I'm in love with the franchise, especially the trilogy from the 2010s, and like you, I have wondered about those questions, so let's try to answer them in two stages. First, we'll explore why the original Planet of the Apes movies matter. We'll take a brief look at each film and its impact on cinematic history. And second, we'll dive into the trilogy from the 2010s and discuss how it revolutionized cinema in its own way. Here's a bit of background for those new to the franchise. The idea for the Planet of the Apes came from a simple zoo visit in France. As the creator stood in front of a cage full of apes, he imagined a planet entirely inhabited by them, and that's how it all began. Now enjoy the video. A few years later, Franklin Schaffner's movie adaptation of the book hit theaters, and it became an instant success. Charlton Heston's performance as George Taylor is undeniably remarkable, the sheer scale of the movie is astonishing, and the sense of exploration and discovery of a new world is truly palpable through the screen. And the ending features one of the greatest plot twists in cinematic history, as George Taylor falls to his knees in front of the famous New York Statue of Liberty. The second movie, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, might not be as iconic as the first, but it was still a box office hit. Charlton Heston was reluctant to return for a third movie, so his character detonates the last nuclear bomb, wiping out the planet at the end of the film. This film's messages about war were clear and resonated with events like the Vietnam War, and the inclusion of protesters and themes of conflict reflected the social and political tensions of the time. With Earth destroyed, the writers turned to time travel for the third movie. In this film, we follow apes from the previous movies as they travel back to the 1970s. They attempt to fit into human society, but soon face human fear due to their descriptions of the future. Eventually, they are killed, but they leave behind their son. He is taken in by Armando, a circus owner, who takes care of him until Caesar starts asking questions. In this world, cats and dogs are gone, leaving only apes as pets for humans. However, their condition is more of slaves than anything else. Caesar is horrified by the treatment of his fellow apes and leads an uprising to overthrow the oppressive system. In the end, instead of killing in the name of justice, Caesar calls off the violence to show he is not like humans. He demonstrates the power of mercy, believing that apes do not possess the wickedness of human nature. Battle for the Planet of the Apes is the fifth and final film in the original series. Released in 1973, the story is set 10 years after the events of Conquest, in a post-apocalyptic world where humans and apes are trying to coexist and rebuild society together. Caesar learns the hard way that this task is not easy, as humans attempt to overthrow ape dominance and apes are divided among themselves. Now that we've covered the original films, why do they matter? Firstly, because they inspired so much of the science fiction that followed, introducing innovative concepts and themes like the dangers of nuclear war and societal collapse, while also offering deep, meaningful commentary on society. The first two Planet of the Apes movies were big hits at the box office. The original film, made on a $5 million budget, earned over $33 million, and the second film also did very well commercially. However, the following sequels, despite making money due to their modest budgets, were of poor quality. They had disjointed storylines and weak writing, making them far less impactful in my viewing experience. In 2001, Tim Burton attempted to remake the original film with his own twist, featuring new characters like Leo Davidson and Harry instead of George Taylor and Dr. Zira. Unfortunately, this version lacked the depth of its predecessors. Burton's admiration for the franchise seemed to drive his vision, but the plot twist borrowed from the original book felt dull and the overall story failed to engage viewers. However, one standout aspect was the practical effects. Rick Baker's prosthetic makeup work was some of the best ever seen in a movie, adding visual authenticity to an otherwise disappointing film. When discussing the reboot trilogy, we have to start with the apes themselves. To understand their creation, we need to stay in 2001, when another significant movie came out, one that everyone remembers and loves, The Lord of the Rings. A crucial element of realism in this film particularly in the character of Gollum, is thanks to Andy Serkis. Initially auditioning to provide just a voiceover to a fully computer-generated character, Serkis' performance was so remarkable, his facial expressions combined with his character-defining voice brought Gollum to life in a way that felt both frightening as a child and deeply realistic as an adult.
I swear I have to do what he wants. Please. It hurts.
There's no promise you can make that I can trust.
It was at this point that Peter Jackson decided to use motion capture instead of a fully computer-generated character, recognizing Serkis' unique ability to synchronize movements and voice to create such an iconic character. This combination of vocal and physical performance set a new standard for motion capture in cinema. In the reboot of the Planet of the Apes franchise, the portrayal of the apes has evolved significantly from the previous movies. No longer are human actors in masks or imitating ape behavior the norm. Instead, the apes are created using state-of-the-art CGI technology with real actors performing in mocap suits. This innovative technique results in a highly realistic depiction of apes, capturing their movements, expressions, and interactions with the environment. The reboot trilogy is not a reboot of the original 1968 movie, but rather from the last two films, Conquest and Battle. By the way, watching this movie again, I could not but get impressed by the overwhelming realism of the CGI for a 2014 movie on a 19 million budget. For comparison, this was made on a 288 million in 2021. Like the 1972 movie, Caesar eventually begins to question his place. Will he remain on a leash his whole life? Is he just a pet? And as he learns and grows, his resentment towards animal mistreatment intensifies. He steals the medication that made him smart and gives it to every ape around him. Caesar escapes with his friends, takes a cable car, kills some police on the Golden Gate Bridge, and says goodbye to his human father. We are now in 2014 and this guy, who directed those small movies, is taking over the franchise. His first film is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and it has been for me the lesser movie in the reboot trilogy for a long time, but rewatching it made me understand how much I was wrong about it. The movie, like none of the others, truly immerses us in a vivid and realistic world. Reeves' direction brings what missed from the previous film, an unparalleled authenticity to the world. From dense forest to human settlements, the film's world is richly detailed and almost tangible. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do feel every rustle of leaves and whisper of wind on my face while watching those guys fishing and messing around. Now, this would not be the great movie Rise was without an improved performance by Serkis. And increased performance there is. His captivating portrayal of Caesar brings an unparalleled level of humanity to the character, making him both compelling and at times intimidating. His lifelike facial expressions make it so easy to forget there's a performer in a mocap suit. Honestly, most of the time I just think I'm watching Caesar leading his apes on a hunt. Serkis' portrayal is masterful, transforming Caesar from a CGI creation into a fully realized character with his own thoughts, feelings, and motivations. This film is a testament to the power of storytelling and the magic of cinema. Talking about the magic of cinema, we now have a glimpse into ape society, showing how they live, hunt, and give birth, offering a detailed picture of their civilization. Initially, humans and perhaps the audience may see the apes as mere animals. However, the film makes it clear that they are much more. During over 2 hours, we see Caesar learning that forming a peaceful relationship between humans and apes is far more challenging than he anticipated. Like the precedent film, we as an audience are given a choice between humans or apes. We can choose to side with humans and against Koba, or with the apes and against this piece of shit, blaming apes for something they are not responsible for. The conflict between humans and apes inevitably intensifies, yet the film attempts to de-escalate its own narrative tension. Like Caesar and Malcolm, we hold on to hope that there is even the slightest chance of peace. Now, the third film in this acclaimed trilogy is War for the Planet of the Apes. This is a very dark film. Themes like slavery, fanaticism, and the sheer cruelty of certain scenes may be disturbing for some viewers. However, I believe it serves as a great and fitting conclusion to the trilogy. In the first scene with Caesar, we learned so much. He is still highly respected by his tribe. He learned, like a lot. And the last thing is, he almost speaks like a human now.
Do not start this war. The ape who did is dead.
Let's keep talking about him, by the way, because he really is the main character here. We follow him on a very personal journey as he's haunted by Koba and the darker aspects of ape nature. He once believed they didn't inherit from humans, all this amidst escalating violence and darkness all around. The simple fact that this guy is fully CGI and he takes all the attention in a movie almost devoid of humans is crazy. This shows how good the character development in the previous two films was. I mean, it's not just Caesar, he's followed by some friends, all CGI apes. The only human doesn't speak. Speaking about speaking, in the 1968 original, language distinguished humans from apes.
There! Can you believe it?
Yes, amusing, a man acting like an ape.
And in war, the loss of language due to a mutation of the simian flu symbolizes a loss of humanity. Maurice, Caesar's loyal friend, speaks for the first time at the film's end, emphasizing even more the significance of language.
Son will know who was father.
The very first movies were classics for their mark on science fiction and cinema, especially in how they approached exploration through a screen. Now the 2010s reboot is special in a way never seen before in the franchise. This is mainly because humans aren't wearing masks to represent apes. Instead, we see actual apes brought to life with the help of incredibly talented actors who infuse each character with personality and emotion. This trilogy changes the face of cinema with its attention to detail. Now apes matter because they challenge us to think not just about ourselves, but about others, their differences, ways of thinking and intelligence. These movies encourage us to look beyond the narrow scope of humanity and consider other species. Thank you so much to Matt Reeves for this incredible cinema experience. I highly recommend you go and watch Kingdom while it's still in theaters, and that's all for me. Thanks for watching.